First amphibian we're going to look at is a
Tree frog.
How did you? All right, wait. How did you know it was a tree frog? It doesn't look anything like a tree.
Well, it lives in a tree. Because it lives in a tree.
Why are they called tree frogs?
Sticking to your hand. Sticking to your hand. And other signs to here.
You're right.
The man who discovered that, his last name is White.
What kind of tree frogs are these?
White.
White tree frogs. And why are they called white tree frogs? They're not white. How'd you know? That means you can...
Discovered that, his last name is White.
You can always tell a tree frog, not because they look like trees, but because their toes aren't long and pointed like amphibians that live on the ground. Their toes, they have little pads. They end with round little pads that are sticky. And they use those to climb around branches in trees and shrubs. Okay. Where does the white tree frog store its food?
In a tree.
No, in a tree. You weren't paying attention, were you? Well, you were paying attention enough to know that these were White's tree frogs, named after Mr. White, who discovered them. Does anybody remember where the white tree frog stores its food?
In his head.
In his head, you're right. The white tree frog stores its food. Most of the adults are going, really? All the kids are, the adults are going, I can't believe that. We keep ours in the refrigerator. They store it in the form of fat on the top of their head. So as the white tree frog goes around, notice the big two pads of fat that are starting to form on the top of its head. You'll see round discs right behind the eyes that are sort of starting to be covered up by those pads of fat. Those are tympanic. Those are waterproof ears. So they can hear everything you're saying about them, so you don't want to say anything bad about them. Did you hear that? This is a western toad. You can find him here in Montana. And I brought him along because it doesn't sound anything like you might think a frog would sound, does it? No, how's it go? A dog or the peeping of a baby bird. This is the western toad. And another reason I brought him along is, see those warts on his skin? Those aren't there just to make him look pretty. They actually serve a purpose. Out of the warts on the skin comes a fluid that tastes bad. So if you were a predator, you were to pick up the toad in your mouth. Out of the warts on the skin comes a fluid that tastes bad, so you'd spit them out. Anybody want to try? Smart. I'm going to pass him around. Only the boy toads peep. And he peeps because he thinks he's being bothered by another boy toad. And instead of fighting over the girl toads, they peep. And the toad with the lower peep is a bigger toad, and therefore the winner. One more amphibian to show you. But let me ask a question. Where does the white tree frog store its food? Why is it called the white tree frog? Okay, how many people think it's a bullfrog? Raise your hand. Look at all the people who are wrong. It's not a bullfrog. This is a toad. And it's called a cane toad or marine toad. This is a poisonous toad. This is a poisonous toad, and it can actually, we talked a little bit about what comes out of the warts in toad skin, tasting bad. Well, this toad, that stuff that comes out of the skin is so toxic it can kill a German Shepherd dog and can actually kill people who are licking these toads. And people, it looks like a cow pie with legs. Well, people are licking these toads because it's a drug. It's a hallucinogenic drug that makes them see things. So in an effort to get high, people are licking these toads, and they're actually dying from licking them. It is sick. I agree. Not me, no. She's almost full grown. She weighs about 3 pounds now. Full grown she'll be about 5 pounds. Just a couple inches longer. She lives in South America, and she's the most widely distributed amphibian in the world by man. People introduce these to sugarcane fields because they eat the cane grub beetles. And you might have heard of the plague of toads in Australia. They introduced them there for the sugar cane, but they didn't like the cane fields. So they ventured out into the neighborhoods. And now they have a plague of cane toads because there's no natural predator. Toads, as a defense, blow themselves up like a balloon to make themselves look bigger, to help also to avoid being eaten. But,
Are they really
pardon? Nope. She just blew up to about almost twice her size. Should I pass her around? We're going to look at reptiles next. But before we go on to reptiles, where do amphibians lay their eggs? Water. And next group we're going to look at, last group, is reptiles. Reptiles differ from amphibians in a number of ways. One of them is reptiles have scales. And what are scales? Scales are similar to your fingernails. And what they do is they make a watertight skin. So reptiles can live away from water, and they don't depend on water to live in. Also, reptiles lay their eggs on land, or they give birth to live, fully formed babies. First reptile we're going to look at is a lizard. What kind of lizard? Gecko. What kind of gecko?
I think it's leopard gecko.
You're right, a leopard gecko. You remember that, didn't you? Leopard gecko. They're from the Middle East, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. They live in the deserts, spend the days below ground, and come up at night to feed when it's cooler. I'm going to pass them around. As I pass them around, I want you to notice something. Actually, a bunch of things. One of them, big eyes for hunting at night. His eyelid has a little ridge on it, like a gutter on a house. That helps keep the sand from falling in its eyes so it can see. It has holes in the side of its head, and if you hold them just right, you can see light coming through, just like on your brother or sister. The other thing is, feel its bumpy scales. It has bumpy scales to help them stay cool. But probably the most special thing about the leopard gecko is its tail.
It stores its food in the tail.
Stores its food in its tail like the white street frog stores food in its head. It stores food in its tail, but also the tail, if it's attacked by a predator, it waves its tail in the air like a flag. And see how it's a lighter color than the body? The intention of the predator goes towards the tail and away from the body. If the predator gets a hold of that tail, the leopard gecko feels he can't get away, his tail pops off. Pardon? And a new tail grows to replace it. Will it be on me? Never has, but I'm not going to say it won't. Okay, do you think a lizard likes to lose its tail?
No.
Why?
Yes. I think it's part of its body.
Part of its body, it loses its food, and it's too much work to grow a new tail. And there's scientific evidence that shows that lizards that have never lost their tail live longer than lizards that have. Could you imagine spending part of your life pulling tails of lizards off? This lizard has never lost his tail, and hopefully he won't today. If you pull his tail off, you're going to replace it with yours. have to stay real calm with this one. This is a...
Iguana.
How'd you know?
Because some friends of mine have 2 iguanas. They just had babies a couple weeks ago.
It's an iguana. And I brought the iguana along because see its tail? The iguana uses its tail for balance in the trees where it lives in South America. But also, it stores food in its tail. But the iguana uses its tail as a weapon against predators. It uses it as a whip. If it's attacked by a predator, it'll take its tail and swing it back and forth. And there's a row of sharp scales on the back of its tail. You run your finger backwards towards its body. Towards its body. It pinches. And so what it does when it's attacked by a predator, it'll whip its tail back and forth, and the sharp row of scales will hurt the predator. But if the predator gets a hold of this tail, the tail breaks off, and the iguana will grow a new one, just like the leopard gecko.
Let it go.
I will. Another reason why I brought the iguana is iguanas have 3 eyes. They do. Okay, they have 2 eyes on the sides of their face, right? You can see those 2 eyes. And they have a 3rd one right in the top on the middle of their head. And this, you'll be able to see it as a real light circle. And what that 3rd eye does is it only sees light. And they use that to lay in the sun because reptiles warm their body up by laying in the sun and laying on a warm rock. And they use that 3rd eye to pick the best place to lay in the sun. The iguana uses this flap of skin here. If it's attacked by a predator, it'll put this out, this dewlap, and it'll make itself look bigger. So they use it to intimidate predators. What's it doing? Shedding. When we're all done, you can come up and look at the iguana again. You don't want to put your hand in front of its face, though.
Why?
It may bite. Do turtles have scales?
No. Yes. No way.
Okay, turtles do have scales. They have scales that are on their shell, and on their legs, and on their head. You have a question? Lost it? Well, this is a little different. This is actually a tortoise. This is a tortoise. Does anybody remember what kind of tortoise this is? No, it's not a painted tortoise. That's a good guess. Pancake tortoise. Why do you think it's called a pancake tortoise? Wait, one clue. It doesn't eat pancakes. Flat like pancakes. I call this the tortoise that is a tortoise that isn't a tortoise that is a tortoise because it doesn't look anything like a tortoise, does it? It is a tortoise. Tortoises are land turtles. And I call this a tortoise that isn't because when you think of tortoise, you think of something that's heavy. This tortoise is light. Also, it has a flat shell, and tortoises have dome shells. And its shell is actually soft. See? I can push it in with my fingers, and I'm not very strong. See how soft it is? What this tortoise does to avoid being eaten by a predator is it doesn't go into its shell. It's too soft in the shell. It lives on rocky hillsides, and it runs under rocks and into cracks in the rocks. and those rocks then serve as protection. So the pancake tortoise actually runs away from predators. And if you lived on rocky hillsides, you wouldn't want a big, thick, heavy shell to drag up those hills, would you? You'd want something that's lightweight. And also, having a flexible shell that's soft, it allows them to fall and bounce on the rock without hurting. If you had a big, thick, heavy shell, and you were to fall on a rock, your shell would crack. You'd be hurt, right? You can tell a happy tree frog because they turn green. Think we got some happy tree frogs?
Yeah, he's green.
That one's green. So this is a pancake tortoise. And see the patterning on its shell? That helps it camouflage with the dry grassland. I gave her a bath before we came today. Does anybody know what this is? It's a... Nope. That's okay. This... What? Box turtle. What's that? How many people think it's a box turtle? If I ask you if you think it's a box turtle, you better keep your hands up. Just because I took a turtle out of a box doesn't make it a box turtle. This is a tortoise. And you can always tell a tortoise because they have elephant-like back legs for life on the land. Proof that elephants evolved from turtles. No, I'm kidding. Red-footed tortoise. Anybody know why it's called a red-footed tortoise? See, you don't even have to graduate to 6th grade to name some of these animals. They're native to South America, and I brought her along. This is Catherine. So you can feel the difference between the red-footed tortoise that looks like a tortoise and feels like a tortoise, and the pancake tortoise. You're right. She has a hard shell. She's not full grown. When she's full grown, she'll be about 2 feet long, weigh about 35 pounds. Okay, what kind of tortoise is this?
A football. It's like football, crazy like a tortoise.
You're right, it's another red-footed tortoise. And I brought this along because this is a male, and he's full grown. And what I want you to do is see the bottom of the tortoise shell? The boys are concave, they're disc like this, and the girls are flat. And also the male red-footed tortoises, as they get older, they become dumbbell shaped. Most of the adult women are going, yep, that's about right. The older they get, they look a little more and more like dumbbells. So I brought him along. You can feel the weight. Shell, wait, look how thick the shell is. Red-footed tortoises go under their shell for protection. And see what they do with their feet? They protect their head. This one's very heavy. They'll come out of its shell in a little bit. I might do that to maybe a puppy or a cat, not a snake.
I'll have to tell her the next best thing.
Where did the iguana go? last group of reptiles we're going to look at is covered with scales from the tip of their nose to the tip of their tail. They don't have eyelids, so they can't close their eyes or wink at you. And they don't have ears. First snake we're going to look at is a Does anybody know what this is? It's not rubber, it's alive. It's called a rubber boa. A true boa that lives in Montana. You can find these in the woods.
Oh, good.
No, they don't bite. This is, if you're going to hold a snake, this is the snake you want to hold. It's the most calm, docile snake there is in the world.
Oh, gee.
And we're fortunate enough to have them live here in western Montana. I brought it along because, see its tail and its head?
Yeah.
They look the same, don't they?
Yeah.
The tongue comes out of its head, tasting the air. But it uses its tail to confuse predators. If it's attacked by a predator, it'll coil up into a ball, hide their head in the coil, and put their tail in the air. The predator, usually a bird, will chew on the tail, and as it chews on the tail, the snake is escaping. It'll bury itself in the leaf litter on the forest floor. And before you know it, it'll disappear. Also, that blunt tail helps him eat. It'll go down into the mouse nest, coil up around the babies and constrict them. And while he's eating the babies, it'll take its tail and fight with the mother mouse. And she thinks it's fighting with the head of the snake and saving her baby. So the blunt tail helps it eat and avoid being eaten. If you look at this tail, you'll be able to see that it's pretty well scarred up. That you can't make out the little scales that used to be there. I'm going to pass them around. I'm going to pass around the rubber boa, and I want you, when you hold the snake, support your body in as many places as you can. Never hold them just in one place, because you can hurt them. And when you pass them from person to person, make sure you don't have one person pulling on one end and another person pulling on another end. Okay. Anybody know what this is? It's a boa constrictor. It's related to the rubber boa that lives here in Montana. And I brought her along because she's a little different, right? She gets bigger than the rubber boa. A big rubber boa is 30 inches long. A big boa constrictor is 12 to 14 feet long. She's about 8 or 9 feet long. And her patterning is a lot different. Her patterning helps her camouflage with the dead vegetation on the rainforest floor in South America where she's from. Rats and rabbits. And I want you to notice something else. When you get a close look at her, her eyes are perfectly camouflaged in her head to make her a very effective predator. When she goes after prey animals, they can't find out where the head of the snake is because they can't see her eyes. Because her eyes blend in with the patterning on her head. And it looks like she has black lipstick on. Can you see that? That helps camouflage her tongue that she's always sticking out, tasting the air.
Why did they take the air?
They taste the air to find out what the world is around them. Boa constrictors don't see very well, so they use their tongue to find out where they are and whether food is around. I sure hope not. The other thing is, do snakes give birth to live babies or do they lay eggs? How many people think they lay eggs? Raise your left hand. Those who think they give birth to live young, raise your right hand. Everybody should have both hands up. Some snakes give birth to live young, like the boa constrictors, like the rubber boa and this Colombian boa. And other snakes lay eggs, like bull snakes, you know what bull snakes are? And racers and pythons. Here, that's a female. Okay, the last snake. She'll get comfortable. The last snake I'm going to show you lays eggs. Photo opportunity. She will. The last snake I'm going to show you. You want to keep away from the iguana though. The iguana is scared of the boa because boas will sometimes eat iguanas. Snakes eat iguanas in South America. The last snake I'm going to show you lays eggs. It's in the boa family, but it lives in Burma. It's this one still. This is the cobra. It's in the boa family, but it's a python. It's a python. Pythons live in Africa and Asia, and boas live in the Americas. Pythons lay eggs, and this is a young Monty, full grown. He'll be about 17 feet long and weigh about 250 pounds. Right now, he's about 10 feet long and weighs about 45 pounds. His patterning helps it camouflage with the rainforest in Burma. And what I'm going to do is set him on the floor, and you can pet him. Don't move quickly around his head, and don't step over him or kneel on him because you'll hurt him. But feel free to pet him and watch the way he moves and pushes his body. No, he's not. No. You want to be gentle with Monty because he ate a couple days ago and it's full of rats.
monster takes a gnome. The monster takes a gnome. You have to choose a gnome monster. I know, the scary gnome. The monster takes a gnome. Oh, not that gnome. Oh, there's a gnome. Okay, let's go around again. The monster in the dell. The monster in the dell. I love to scare you. The monster in the dell. The monster takes a unicorn. The monster takes a unicorn. I love to scare you. The monster takes a unicorn. The monster takes a fairy. The monster takes a fairy. I